Hi, my name's Heather from Electric Needle Girls. Today I'm going to talk to you about my collection of fabric marking tools. Not everybody has this many, I acknowledge that. I'm a little bit of a gadget junkie. Anyway, I have got lots of things and some certainly work better than others. So we will move around the table and I'll talk about them all. The first one on my right is the Clover Choco, something like that. I have got it in 4 different colours. This is wonderful and not all that wonderful all at the same time. The white one is really good, but it of course doesn't show up on light fabric. There's a wheel and there's chalk, powdered chalk in the reservoir here. It does show up on dark fabric. So you get a nice fine line which comes off very, very easily. There's a blue one. A grey one. And a pink one. Now, I would use the coloured ones sparingly. That's the marks they show. I did put the blue on a quilt for my grandson probably 7 years ago, and it took a long time to come off. It didn't just dust off or come off with a little spritz of water or anything. It marked it beautifully and made it easy for me, but we had blue cross hatches on the quilt. These reservoirs, you can buy refills from them. They're made by Clover. They are a good quality product, but the colour in the chalk is a little bit iffy, I would say. We'll just call it that. A lot of people only like using the white one. I'm just going to put the grey on the dark and see if it comes up. I don't know the answer to that. Not really. You could probably see it, but and it does stay on for a little while. Anyway, they work really well because you can go against a ruler with them. So they have their uses. The next one around the table is the Hera marker. Now that leaves no visible mark, but when you press down on it, on a quilt, it is a really good way to mark a line on a quilt, to get a long line. I know Emma Jean Jansen came to our guild and she quilts most of her own quilts on her domestic machine, and she uses a Hera marker to mark them. She does modern quilting and she does a lot of straight line, and for her that works. So this is, and again, you can do that along a ruler and that works well. We have these in our shop. Then we have a white marking pen. This is a fine one, and this is another Clover product. You might work out that I do like Clover products. Now you draw on this and it takes a little while for the mark to become evident. It's sort of as it dries, it comes out. So that is another interesting, it's not coming out. It is coming, it just takes a few moments. So I'll bring us back to that later. This is really interesting one. This is the Sewline Duo Pens. Now you have duo, meaning you have 2 of them. So you have one that marks and one that erases. So I'll show you the mark. Sorry, one piece of fabric at a time. So this is the line you get, instant. You can see it on dark fabric. Can't see it on, what's up? Oh, this is my third hand helping. Okay. So I'm just going to use the eraser, which is a white wedge like texture and go over the mark. And can you hold that up for us, Vicky? That's magic. We do have that in our shop. So that is a really good way of marking fabric. So I've got no mark left. I also like using mechanical pencils. So they're just a product you buy at the supermarket or at Officeworks. You can get them in really fine. There's 0.7 millimeters and 0.5 millimeters, I think. I prefer that over a normal lead pencil that the kids have at school and things, because I get a finer line. I like that. There's mechanical pencils. This is an interesting one. I spoke about this when I was talking about doing my curly flying geese. And you can roll this over the fabric, and if you put this tracing paper, which is like a chalk paper, underneath it, and you roll on top, you will get a mark. Now, we don't, it's another Clover product. You can adjust the gap too, because this, at the moment, I've got this set to 1/4 inch, because I like 1/4 inches for doing patchwork. But you can set it to 5/8 or 1.5 millimeter, 1.5, 15 millimeters, which is 1.5 centimeters, which is generally what you use for garment making. And you trace with your and you get blue, green, red, white or yellow. Again, I would only put that in the seam allowance other than white, because I think those marks may take a little while. They'd come out with a garment because you would be washing it. So that's a nice little... You can also just put a mark like you do with the Hera marker with this, but it is harder to see. And that's what I used on the freezer paper. I did just put a mark with it. So that's that. We've talked about the mechanical pencils. I often use those for drawing the line down the middle of a square when I'm doing 2 at a time half square triangles, because it's easy and it's cheap and it's there. So there's that. Air erasable markers. This is, now these are generally speaking air erasable markers. Now they just fade in the air. Generally they are mauve. That's what gives them, that's that crosshatch that I drew on the fabric. Now that will go away in hours to days. So you don't mark up a quilt and leave it for a week and then expect to go back and see the marks that you've made, because they will not be there anymore, because they just fade away in the air. So don't use that. Where am I going next? These are pencil markers. Now again, where's my black? Here's my black. I tend not to use these very often. I have them. I've probably got given them in show bags and things like that. This does come up quite well. It's white, it would come off. And I've got a darker one, but the leads do break, and that makes it more difficult. But they are very precise. So that's that marking pencil. This one is brandless. The white one is Clover. And I think somewhere I've got a pink one too, but there we go. Another thing that a lot of people like to use is the friction pens. Now they are a supermarket or an Officeworks buy, because they're dollars, you know, $5 something, something like that. I've got a couple of different styles. Now, the really funky thing about these is that you can rub them out with the rubber, and you can also, yeah, Vicky's turning the iron on. you can, the mark goes away with heat, because heat is a form of friction, like rubbing is a form of friction. Now, the ink doesn't actually leave the fabric. It just becomes invisible. Now, that's a marker, that's a wedge, so if you want a thicker line, and this is a really fine one. So don't write checks with them. Not that we write checks much anymore anyway. So I've got, at the moment I've got the purple marker, the black pen, the purple pen and the green pen. They are good. Please do never use it on a quilt without checking to make sure that it does come away with ironing it. So check it on a piece of fabric first. The reason I say that, excuse me, the reason I say that, do you want to give that an iron, Vicky? The reason I say that is that sometimes they can leave a shadow line. I marked an apron once, a dark apron. It was blue, and to put a design on the bib, and it did leave a shadow line. Probably would come off when you washed it. Is that all gone? Yeah, that iron heats up really quickly. So Vicky's just going to show you the same piece of fabric, and you can see that those lines have disappeared. So the next one round my circle is, oh, thank you, yes, she's just reminded me. Now this doesn't happen in Australia unless you live in on the top of Kosciuszko or in one of the alpine villages or something, which we don't. These marks can come back when it gets very cold, and apparently people in the US, if they left the quilt in the car overnight outside where it would drop below freezing, and I've been in the US when it has been below freezing, and it really does, the marks can come back. They will be removed again with the iron, or become invisible rather than removed, but they can come back, and people have had difficulty when they've posted quilts for shows and things like that, and they've gone through the post, and the post doesn't have to protect things from the cold. So be aware of that too. Not so bad in Australia because we're fine. Now this is a really interesting and really quite useful tool. This is a water or aqua erasable one, and they are blue, and that's universal. So blue for water and purple for air, yes. I used these recently. I was taking up curtains for Vicky's brother's new house, one of my sons, and I marked a line on the sheer curtains to get a straight line, because it's hard to get a straight line on meters and meters and meters of sheer curtain, and this came away so very easily with just damp fingers. And that's all I did. So you draw a line. I'll draw a cross hatch here, Vic, and you can spritz it, but here I have an aqua pen, so a water pen. It's got a reservoir and you put water in it. Put the right side. So these are actually an artist's supply thing. So it's just got a reservoir. Some people use best press in them, just to get a little bit of best press on their work when they're doing turned applique and things like that. So you can see where it's damp, but the mark has gone completely. So that's a really quick way to mark and unmark your work. This is one of my favourite tools. It's really quite funky. We have this in our shop with the refill leads. This is a Sewline Trio Pen. It has white, now I took my pink and black, is it? Yes, sorry. I did take my glasses off so I looked more human. And this has the really fine lead pencil that Sewline is so very have perfected. So on this I'll do the, I've just got a, the white won't show up on this, the black will. Again, we had someone here sewing with us a few weeks ago, didn't we, Vicky? And she really liked it, but we hadn't got them in stock yet. I think we would have sold her one on the day if we'd had them in stock. We're back to pink. Told you I should have put my glasses on. Black, pink. Oh, here we go. No, there's the white. So the pink shows up a bit on the dark fabric. And so if you want to hold those up, Vic, they do go. They leave the fabric quite easily. My friend was marking across squares to do folded squares. We also have in the shop, there is a green, isn't there? We don't have a, we've got green leads. And this is a single one, but it has a rubber on it, a eraser, you know. That, anyway, so that marks on the dark fabric again. So that's the single one. More economical to purchase the trio and have the 3 colours, and it's in your box of tricks. I'm going to give my koala a cuddle. Heather, the electric needle girl, comes. She's got everything. Thanks. See you another time.